You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hey Ramblers, today's episode is brought to you by Fangoria. Since 1979, Fangoria has been the authority in the world of contemporary horror. As the only sanctuary for horror aficionados in its early days, it has now grown into an empire that expands beyond its celebrated magazine. From t-shirts, coffee mugs, beanies, enamel pins, there's something for every horror fanatic in your world, even if it's you. So head on over to shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or use code pencil and paper productions at checkout to get 20% off your first order or magazine subscription. Yes, it is a mouthful, which is why there are links in the show notes down below. That's shop.fangoria.com/pencil and paper productions or code pencil and paper productions at checkout for 20% off. Fangoria, first in fright since 1979.
Buy it or we'll tear your soul apart.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Horror Ramblings podcast. You know, that show that's about all things horror. As always, this is Lester, joined by the astonishing, the astounding, the irreplaceable Stephen White. How are you today, Stephen?
Doing all right. Feel rested to a point. Still feel tired, but I feel rested. You know, that's good. You to at least feel rested. You know, sleep is important.
I'm feeling okay today. If anybody hears me sniffle a little, I think there's a head cold coming on because the weather can't make up its mind.
Yeah. It's that time.
Yeah, it's I got a taste of fall and I was happy. I'm like, it's perfect because spooky season's coming and the weather's changing, and then it's gonna be 75 degrees today, and I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
it's insanity. What's new, man? Might as well just put her out there real quick. Anything pressing, like with the other podcast or anything anything exciting?
Well,
Figured I'd ask.
I mean, since people are, I'm hoping I haven't let anybody down. If you listen to the other podcast, I put myself in a bit of a pickle with this last episode. You see, because I wanted to do something special, and I did some extra work on this episode, and I'm thinking that I got it out late because I'm not done with it as of recording. And, you know, it should already be out by now. So, but as of we're recording this, I'm not done. So I'm kind of hoping that I can finish it in time. So we'll see.
You always find a way.
I'm just worried because I put myself in this situation and I was like, God damn it. Why did I tell people this fucking thing was coming out? Because I did. I said specifically this date, be prepared. It's coming. And now deadlines, man. That was kind of the point.
Well, it's like the old saying, shit happens. You'll get it though. I have no doubt about that. But
I suppose. Anyway,
let's kind of talk about news. I don't know if you've seen any good news. The only news that I've seen is about the new Joker movie, and it wasn't very good news.
Yeah, I've been seeing some reviews. Not too kind.
Yeah, and I've seen some reviews for the new Terrifier. They're kind of all over the place.
But that's to be expected. I feel like even with the second one, that was kind of all over the place, where some people were just like, it's too long, because I said that. But I mean, it's a horror movie that's very, very specific to people. Like, you're either in it or you're not. So I can see that being all over the place.
I guess this one, they've given art more screen time. The Christmas aesthetic is a nice little change, a lot of people said. I'm just worried because they were like saying the opening scenes, like the first 10 minutes of this movie, are really controversial. And in the one ad, they show him in the house and the little girl goes, Santa, and he gets up. I'm wondering if the first 10 minutes of the movie is not him brutally murdering a child.
Probably. I would almost bet on that.
And it's one of those things where they said that all of the deaths in this film, or like 70 to 80% of the deaths in this film, are brutal, like bedroom scene in the second one brutal. And I'm just like, when are we going to reach the spot where there's no more shock value?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but right now Art is still an interesting character to watch. And with him being the clown, with him being funny the way that he is about how much he enjoys what he does, there's still a level of shock value to that when he's doing things. But I know they've all said of the film, everyone involved has said, we don't want it to turn into one of those things where he becomes like a gimmick.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Another thing that I had heard that I really liked was, yes, Art can be funny, but he still has that way about him where when he's going after someone, he's still scary. Like there's still something scary about when he gets that sinister look on his face and he's going after someone.
Mm-hmm.
And you chalk that up just to the actor. You give him props all day for that one. Like, yes, the director is pushing him to perform a certain way, but if he doesn't do his job on point, the whole thing fails. So I'm debating. I thought about going to the movie theater to see it just cause, but I'm not sure if I'm going to. That's going to be one of those movies that I will have to go by myself.
Sure, yeah.
Like you live too far away.
Yeah.
We'd have to do like a meet in the middle, and that'd be like a whole day just to go see a movie. And then if the movie's bad, I'm going to be pissed. So, it's, and my, Samantha does not like horror films. She has a few that she will watch, and every year I get one horror film. But if I took her to see Terrifier 3, she'd probably look at me after the movie. If she sat through the whole thing, she'd probably look at me and go, "You don't get another horror movie for like 5 years." I don't want to risk that. Don't want to risk it. So I don't know. I'm kind of in a spot right now, and we can get into that as we talk a little bit more. Even the movie that we're going to talk about today, I sat there and I watched it and I went, meh, like it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the new Salem's Lot. I don't think it's as bad as what everybody has been saying. Like everybody's been like really just tearing it apart. The biggest thing that I will say about it, it's rushed. It is very much rushed. So yes, you don't get the opportunity to really get to know the characters. Some of them a little bit more, but they've got a lot of interesting backstories that they hint at, but they don't really elaborate on them as much as I would like for them to. There's two characters in it. There's one guy who's a teacher, and there's one kid in it. They are both probably my favorite characters in the whole film. And when you meet the one kid, I'm pretty sure they decided that they were going to do a prequel story from when Blade from Marvel was a kid, because that's exactly how this kid is. Like he's a badass. The effects were great, which modern day effects are astonishing anyways. But they honestly could have broken this down into probably like 2 1-hour specials or something like that, and told a little bit more story, and I would have been completely invested in it. But yeah.
All right.
Movies have just been letting me down here lately.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I mean, when you watch something as amazing as When Evil Lurks, the bar gets pretty high,
That's fair.
Like you want that thrill again.
I don't know if you knew this. I knew that they had at least like one of the Friday the 13ths on Shudder. They're all on Shudder. I did not realize that. People who don't know that, they're all on Shudder. HBO Max, or Max as they like to call it. I'm just gonna call it HBO because I just hate saying Max.
Yeah.
They have all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets except for they don't have Freddy's Dead and they don't have New Nightmare, but they have all of the others. Yeah, but they have all of the others, and then they have Freddy vs. Jason, which I went back and watched Freddy vs. Jason the other day. And I don't care what anybody says, that movie still holds up. Like it still holds up really damn well. Like,
I agree.
That movie gets shit on by some people. Oh, it's just a gimmick. You know what? I don't give two shits what you think about it. I don't care who I piss off with saying this. If you don't like Freddy vs. Jason, I don't give a shit. Like, that's on you, dude. If you can't enjoy it, whatever. I watched it yesterday. Still holds up. The effects are still great. The whole concept's still great. They do just enough in it to where it doesn't feel like it's out of place in time.
Yeah.
Like, it still feels like it could be, oh, this happened just a few years ago. No, it's been much longer than that.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but,
insane.
yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
oh, sorry, here I am just going off.
You're fine.
What news do you have for us today, Stephen? I was asking you about news, and then I went off on a tangent there.
Well, let's see here. We do have some, I guess, good news, depending on how you look at it. And you know what? I don't know why this just occurred to me just now, but it's such a beautiful thing when I think about it. And I'll get to it in a second. All right. So filming is finally complete on Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein. So hopefully we'll be seeing something in the next couple of months, maybe a trailer. Maybe we'll get a time frame and when we'll actually get to see this thing. What I was piecing together in my head, which I find to be a beautiful sentiment, is I don't know if you remember a movie, Short Circuit. Remember Johnny Five?
I love that movie. One of my all-time favorites.
And the second one, okay? In the second one, he's trying to grapple with this concept of what it means to be alive, you know, and everyone's always telling him he's not alive, he's just a robot and all this other stuff. And he goes to a library looking for input, and then he says, I must read these two books very carefully. And they get those books for him, but you never see what they are until a little bit later, where he's kind of in this sad state, and he just looks dour and depressed about everything, because again, he's being treated like a machine, even though he doesn't feel like a machine. And you've come to find out that the two books he needed to read very, very carefully are Pinocchio and Frankenstein. Two movies about what it means to be human, I guess, or to be alive. And Guillermo del Toro is directed a Frankenstein movie and a Pinocchio movie. How about that? Look, it all comes back around. If I found out he was a fan of Short Circuit, would not be surprised. I guess that's where I'm trying to go with that. So, looking forward to that. And then we also have Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. We got another trailer for that. Still haven't seen Bill Skarsgård as the vampire, which I'm a little frustrated by, but I'm also kind of glad. You know, like you're going to make me go see it to see it, and I want that.
That is a brilliant marketing tactic.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate the hell out of that. Because, like you said, it makes you want to see it even more. It would have been like if when they did the It remakes, if they did trailers and you didn't see what Pennywise looked like.
Maybe even just got like a slit, like just like a glimpse. You're just like, oh, because they're giving us shadows and hands and shit. So we're getting.
Did they show his eyes? I can't remember.
Maybe.
But it was like a really good close up where you didn't see anything else.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, that's just like the last voyage of the Demeter. I don't think the trailers of that they really showed the monster in that. They didn't show Dracula. So when you watch it, I think that just adds to the shock value, which is just phenomenal. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. Now, on the same playing field, if you know what I mean, with the creature from the Black Lagoon, James Wan's also kind of working on that. Apparently, they got a writer for that. I thought it was a little farther in production than it is, so I was a little surprised when they said, well, we got a writer for it. And I was like, but didn't you already? Okay. So I guess it's farther or not as far along as I thought it was. So I'm a little disappointed.
I'll be honest. The creature from the Black Lagoon is probably, and I might get some hate for this, I would wager to say out of all the Universal monsters, it kind of teeters, but he's normally at the top of my list for my favorite monster.
I think
there's just something about him.
I think he is underappreciated. I think there's some love that needs to go around because he seems a little bit far removed. He's like one of those one of the little rascals, you know. Like you've got the core kids, you know, and then there's the other kids that you kind of remember, and you're just like, well, they're good too. That's him, you know. He's not one of the core kids. He was one of the after kids, but he's still a good kid.
Right. You know, I just thought of something. Speaking of, you know, a movie that did a really good job kind of parodying, doing a parody of those monsters was Monster Squad.
Mm-hmm.
How cool would it have been if they would have done like a couple little specials or something where they used those versions of the monsters and they told stories? That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I could get behind that.
Could be fun.
Oh man! But
everybody's.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking of Monster Squad. The best line in movie history. Give me the amulet, you bitch. Kick him in the nards. Anyways,
Man ain't got nards.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody's favorite Santa slasher. You know what that is? Of course you do. Come on. What would be everybody's favorite Santa slasher?
The only Santa slasher that comes to mind is that god-awful Santa's Sleigh that I watched years ago.
No.
What one are you talking about?
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Everybody's favorite.
Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Or I'm just kidding. No, it's 40 years this year. Scream Factory is releasing a 4K release complete with novelization of the book or of the movie. So it's a book of the movie.
You know, it's terrible because I do remember watching Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I always forget that it's a Santa slasher.
Mm-hmm. Kill. Yeah, all right. What else we got? No. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is fucking weird. I don't know what the hell they're trying to do over in the Call of Duty stuff, and I just want to bring this up because I feel like this is not the way I want to see this character come back. But they're doing these horror events on Call of Duty Warfare, Modern Warfare, Warzone, whatever the fuck, and they're putting Sam from Trick or Treat as a thing in the game, and I don't know what the fuck that's about, but okay.
You know, I just was reading today about Trick or Treat. It was some like behind the scenes stuff. Apparently, when the girls that turn out to be werewolves, when they're, you know, trying to find costumes and that little boy's like trying to sneak a peek.
Yeah.
That's the little boy that plays Sam.
Ah.
Kind of cool. And the company that created the werewolves for Trick or Treat is the same company that created the werewolves for the Underworld series.
Okay.
Random facts. I saw quite a few of them today. But yeah, those were the coolest ones. And I wish we could get another Trick or Treat. I want at least one more. They keep talking about it, but it's like, oh, it's greenlit. Well, we're still in pre-production getting stuff together. It's like, come on, make it happen. Like the same guy can't play Sam now because he's grown up, but we can still get a movie. You can pick somebody else to play Sam, and we can make it happen. I mean, come on. It's a great story. Takes place in Ohio too.
Do like an anthology series or something, but all kind of tied in with the Sam character. So it seems like you're getting something different every week, kind of like you did in the movie, but it's all intertwined.
And just have a nod to him, you know, just have a nod to him like you did in the movie.
Yeah.
Except for, you know, the ending when he goes ham on that guy. But, you
know. So if you're looking for some horror stuff, I know you were talking about Max earlier, HBO Max. The maxiest Max of all things horror. Yeah. I'm gonna let you know they're trying to amp up. Everybody's trying to amp up their horror libraries this month, and they're just like, hey, look at the awesome stuff we got. We got Trap coming October 25th. How about you want to watch Trap and be bored to tears?
I was going to tell you jokingly today on the podcast that they have an M. Night Shyamalan section, and you should just go through and watch all of them.
No, I'm good. He does have another one. Now he didn't direct this, mind you, but he produced one that also came out. It came out. If you're listening to this on the day that we release these podcasts, then or even after it, because it doesn't matter, it's already out. It's out now. It's called Caddo Lake. He apparently produced it. So if it sucks, you know why. I don't know if it's any good. I haven't heard. And then also, if you're all excited, because I'm legitimately excited about this, we're gonna get Maxine on October 18th. So
okay,
looking forward to
finally
checking that out.
I want to bring up something real quick news-wise that I discussed with you. It was on like Yahoo's website. Robert Englund was asked about the possibility of any interest in coming back to be Freddy in a animated fashion, and he actually has shown quite a bit of interest, which I could honestly get behind. I know Bruce Campbell is talking about coming back as Ash. They're doing an animated Evil Dead, which I think is awesome. I think the way that they do things now, you can make things from animated shows canon with live action stuff. We could continue to see these performers play these characters in some capacity, and I find that whole concept really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I also found out a while back, Heather Langenkamp said that she thought Robert Englund had one more Nightmare film in him.
Yeah.
They asked him about that, and he was like, I love Heather, but I'll have to disagree. He's like, I'm too old. I can't do my own stunts. I can't do fight scenes that have to be one take. And that kind of frustrates me. I am all for him retiring and resting and not being Freddy anymore. But we live in an age where he could probably put on his Freddy gear and film all of his scenes, close-up scenes or scenes where he talks, or you just need him for a specific shot. He could film all of that in probably one day. And you could get doubles. You could get doubles to take the hits, to do the rest of it. So, yeah, I do feel like he could still play Freddy one more time. And maybe that's just because I'm selfish about it, and I really would love to see him as Freddy one more time. But, I mean, Halloween brought actors back from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So a living actor who's just a little bit older, I think they could.
I think
just
so, yeah.
saying. Anyways.
What else we got coming out? Beetlejuice is dropping on digital this month, or at least it should be out on digital by this point. Well, by the time you're listening, it came out on Tuesday, and then it'll be available on 4K on November 19th. So if you're looking forward to Beetlejuice on physical, there's your date to be looking forward to it. They dropped another trailer for that show before that we were talking about, the Billy Crystal Supernatural.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really looking forward to it because it's just so not his wheelhouse, but I'm all for it, man.
It's so weird to see him take on a role like that. Maybe it's because he's got a few more years under his belt and he's like, I've had a good career, let's mix it up a little bit, but
I'm all for it too, man. Just let's do something different. Why not? So this I'm a little excited about, depending on the extent that we're looking at seeing this expand. The Doc of Chucky, which is a documentary exploring the Killer Dolls franchise and legacy from the same producer who did Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake Memories. So you remember massive fucking documentaries. Supposed to be
6 hours long, I think.
supposed to be dropping on Shudder November 1st. So
that's cool.
I'm excited about that. I don't give a shit how long it is. I'm there for it, man. And it's supposed to be talking to everybody from, obviously, Don Mancini, Brad Dourif, Jennifer Tilly, but they talked to Catherine Hicks, who I don't even remember the last time she spoke about Child's Play. You know, I mean, this bitch was on Seventh Heaven doing her godly shit with a child molester. Yeah, look into it. Chris Sarandon, I mean, I love the man. I'd love to meet this man. You know, we need to see if there's ever a Fright Night reunion nearby in a convention, because I gotta meet him. You know, coolest motherfucking vampire and cop. And then everybody else. I don't know. I'm excited about this documentary, and I get to watch it on Shudder.
You know, when I hear you talk about Child's Play and Chucky and all that, sometimes I think you actually enjoy that franchise more than Friday the 13th. It's pretty close, isn't it?
I think so, mainly because I think I respect how consistent it has been. And consistent in the sense of, I know it's shifted tone, but Chucky has never felt wrong in any setting. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what they've done, he's worked. No matter how they've presented him, it's worked. And they have never strayed away from where they last left him. Because I literally thought when they did, what was it, Curse? Yeah, that was the one right after Seed. I have no reason to think otherwise, but all I could sit there and think was, man, they're going to just fucking restart or reset this whole franchise. And I just don't understand it. But then when I realized, no, we're continuing the thread, I was like, fuck, dude, awesome, thank you. You know, and just made me respect it even more.
That would be a great franchise to play that game that with the reviews.
Yeah. Might have to do that.
Yeah, might have to do that.
Maybe we could rope in a guest and play with them or something. Get them on it too. I'll figure something out.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
You know, I want to be excited. There was a time I would have been excited about this news, but I got nothing in me anymore for this, because I don't care. That on February 27th, 2026, Scream 7 will release. I don't care, because, as I stated, it was last week or the week before or whenever it was, I don't have a problem with Neve Campbell, I said her name right. I can't even say her name right. I'm so mad. I have no problem with her. It's just Sidney Prescott, fuck off. And Courtney Cox, I'm applauding the fuck out of her right now for not coming back. or at least she has not as of yet. I think she should not come back. Just go. Walk away from it. Be done. Because they've already ruined it. By firing Melissa Barrera and that whole thing, I'm sorry, that you ruined everything.
You know, sometimes I wish that they would let the movie franchise just die for a little while and bring back the series that they were, because the series got switched over to another network, and then they were changing it and telling a different story. So we never got to finish the original story that was being told.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that someone would pick it up and be like, hey, let's go back. Let's tell the original story that we were telling with the series, because I could get behind that. And the series was great. The movies have sort of lost their appeal because it really is just the same story rehashed. And they had the opportunity to do something great. And that's what we all thought was going to happen. And like you said, and they fired people. And now we're going back to the same old shit.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Scream, do you remember when we were talking about how Ghostface just seemed kind of out of place in Mortal Kombat?
Yeah.
I saw this video. There was a caption above it that said, "Who could Ghostface actually kill in Mortal Kombat?" And they showed people doing all their fatalities to Ghostface, and they were like, "Not this guy, not this one," but it was basically everybody. They all just destroyed him.
It's fucked up. And I don't know why I didn't think about this while we were talking about it. So before we get too far removed from Chucky, I don't know if you've heard this, and I know it got floated around as a joke at one point, but now I think people are being dead serious, and I'm just like, man, would you legitimately want to see Chucky in space?
Not particularly.
Like,
I think if they did some kind, like if the series was still running and they did it like a little bit of a parody thing, like in an episode or something, where Chucky's like, it was bound to happen eventually, or, say something smart like Chucky does, that would be hilarious. And I would love that. But if they were like, let's do a whole movie about him going to space, I don't think I could get behind it.
I don't understand how, like, what would you eat? Why? Like, why? Getting into the White House, I understood. Like, that was a step extreme that we never considered, but it was like, well, but why not? I mean, he can do mass destruction and chaos in the shadows. Why not? But space? I don't know.
I would rather see Chucky on a cruise ship or in a submarine before I'd see him in space.
We got this cruise ship thing down. Like, idea. Just, it's something a lot of people haven't explored. Why? Like, Jason on a boat ride? No, Jason on a fucking, what do they call them? The big, what do they call the Carnival Cruise?
Oh, Lord. I'm telling you, there are some movie ideas that if you did a cruise ship thing, it'd be great. We've said it multiple times. Evil Dead on a cruise ship. Come on. That writes itself. But I could see Chucky, like, maybe one of the kids that, befriends him. Maybe that kid has an older brother or something who's in the military. That kid comes home. Chucky's like, oh, I'm going to go cause some problem. I can get into the military. And it could be sort of the same thing with the White House. He's trying to launch nukes. He gets onto a submarine that has artillery on it.
Mm-hmm.
He could kill a bunch of people.
It's true. I mean, come on.
I'm not saying that that's like $1 million idea, but I would rather see that than Chucky in space.
Yeah.
Unless you give him a lightsaber, then that might be fun.
And at that point, you're leaning into parody. Why not? Just fucking go with it. Because didn't they do that with the fucking Leprechaun or something?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, fuck that. Sad news. If you love The Nightmare Before Christmas, the voice of Oogie Boogie passed away this week. Ken Page. So sad to see that. But I couldn't tell you another voice he's done. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm just throwing that out.
I guess he was in The Wiz.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was in The Wiz, I guess. He did a lot of Broadway performances.
Gotcha.
I used to like watching, because Disney would do their like live events, and he would go almost every year, and he'd sing at their live events, which I thought was phenomenal. But yeah, we're losing people from another kind of horror-related thing, sort of horror adjacent. If you think of Blade and vampires, Chris Christopherson also passed away, who was Blade's mentor. Good
pull, yeah. And I think, not to say that I wasn't familiar with him, But I would say that Chris Christopherson was one of those people that you kind of sort of knew, unless you were like big into country music. But Blade would have been that thing where that's where people knew him, and that's where not everybody, but you know what I mean. I guess for a certain generation.
What was the movie with Lady Gaga and
Stars
Bradley Cooper? Chris Christopherson was the lead male actor in the original one of that. So some people might know him from that.
Their first remake or second, because there's been a lot.
Yeah, I was actually familiar with him because of the Highwaymen, that group of country guys that got together and everything. Which, out of all of them, Willie Nelson's the only one left. 91 is still performing, so more power to him. But Wesley Snipes, actually, it was actually kind of touching. He posted some pictures from Blade, and he was a little late to posting about it. And he even apologized to the family for posting late, but he did a touching little tribute, and he made references to Blade, but he also made references to Chris Christopherson. Yeah, that's probably the first place that I remember seeing him other than hearing his voice, because his voice sounds familiar, and then you see him on the screen, and you're like, do I know that guy?
Yeah. What else we got here? So there's another, I didn't know about this, there's another Nosferatu project on the books called, wait a minute. Okay, so yeah, this is something, I guess it was supposed to be something that was announced way back in 2016. I don't know why it took so long, but it's another Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror. It's got Doug Jones, who people might know as the Shape of Water fish man, and then Abe Sapien from the Hellboys, and then he was that guy in the Star Trek show who I can't think of his name, but
most people would probably know him as Billy from Hocus Pocus.
And that too. He's always the guy in the makeup and shit in the thing. Like, I honestly feel like he should be C-3PO whenever what's his name passes.
He's also the Count or whatnot in What We Do in the Shadows.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Which, hey, that got a trailer for its final season. It's looking like it'll be a lot of fun. So, anyway, this seemed like it would be pretty cool. And him in the makeup looks pretty neat. Not wholly original, you know what I mean? Like, you look at it and it's like, well, I guess, yeah, that's a vampire, but it doesn't stand out.
I want to ask you this real quick, because this is a question that's been on my mind. Out of the different appearances of vampires that we've seen in movies, is there any in particular that you prefer over others? Like, are you more, I prefer my vampires to look like Dracula, I prefer the Salem's Lot vampire? Like, do you have a preference?
I actually like that there's a variety. Like, almost as if you were to look at it as a condition or a virus or something like that, like you're now afflicted with this condition. Some people, they can wear it elegantly and it doesn't affect them, so they can walk around beautiful. And then there are other people, I guess it's like mutations, like in X-Men and stuff like that. So you've got some that you'd never know if you were a mutant, and then others are just a little bit more deformed. I don't know. I like that variation. Like, maybe it affects you differently, affects certain people differently, or maybe you have a different strain of vampirism, so you become more feral. I don't know. I think it's a fun little disease like that.
I've never thought of it like that. That's a good point.
I even thought, like, I had this idea for a vampire story, and I feel like it was nothing more than just ideas on a page. I never really constructed anything specific, but it was, what if vampires were secretly running everything? And, certain familiars that, they were doing shit behind the scenes. Then you had the higher ups, but then there was like this one motherfucker that was running everything, and he secretly had Dracula chained up off in this fucking room. And this is where he was siphoning all of his powers and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just various ideas, but you had a class system of the vampires, like certain vampires.
There used to be a video game. It was like something Bloodlust. It was an online game. And the more that you fed on people, the more monstrous your appearance became. Like, you started to look more like a beast. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that concept too. I do know one thing we can all agree on, though. Vampires don't sparkle.
No, they don't sparkle.
Let's just
God
out there.
damn
But
it.
yeah, I was kind of curious about that. If you had like a preference of what you like, I think that Lord, my brain, the Dracula movie with Gary Oldman.
Mm-hmm.
I think that does a great job at showing the different forms that Dracula can take. And I would like to think that other vampires can adjust their appearance. And I think sometimes they go more animalistic or look more animalistic to intimidate. Like I could see it as an intimidation tactic as well.
Mm-hmm.
One movie that I love, and I love the look of the vampires and the performance, is 30 Days of Night. I think that movie gets shit on a little bit, but it's actually a pretty good movie. So,
Interesting.
anyways,
Anywho, if you're looking forward to having a physical copy of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, it's going to slash its way onto Blu-ray this December. So just looking forward to that. I wanted to touch on, because I saw this as I was thumbing through some news, where you had mentioned that there were people walking out of Terrifier. I wanted to read some first-hand accounts. Apparently, there was one screening in the UK where 11 people walked out, 9 during the opening scene, and 1 confirmed to have puked on the way out. 1 had a panic attack during a scene involving kids as a mall Santa. Just little things like that. Just insane.
you know what shocks me about that? I know a lot of people have not watched the YouTube shorts and the films that he did before he did the movies. But there is the movie called All Hallows Eve. And at the end of that movie, the babysitter runs upstairs and both of the kids have been decapitated, and their decapitated heads that have been mutilated are on the bed. You don't see it happen, but you still are like, shit, the kids got killed. So it's not like they've beat around the bush about it. That's the one thing, David Leone has talked about being interested in Friday the 13th, and he could do some crazy Jason stuff. He could probably do a Nightmare on Elm Street, but I don't know if I would want to see those slashers kill children.
No.
Like, Freddy's a child killer, but it was teenagers that he was going after. They hinted that he got younger kids back in the day, but they never showed it. But to see one of those characters do that, I don't know if... I guess it comes back to the fact that we've had these characters for so long. Seeing them do something that drastically different would be a shock to the system.
Sure, yeah.
But, so 11 people.
11 people, at least in one screening in Britain. So just fun times with that. If that's something you're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to this next thing. Apparently there's going to be a Family Guy Halloween special on Hulu this month. So I don't know what that's about, but fucking A, I'm all for it. Whatever we can do to tickle my funny bone, because I like a good laugh. And sometimes Family Guy delivers.
You know what show had one of the best Halloween specials that nobody talks about? King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah?
They had a Halloween special. Luann was dating a guy that owned one of the biggest butcher shops in Texas. They butchered pigs, and the guy was out of his ever-loving mind. And at the end of the episode, the guy actually gets killed. But it is like the most dark, twisted special that you would ever see, especially for King of the Hill. But nobody ever talks about it. If you get the chance to ever watch it, I'll have to find the name of it. But yeah, for King of the Hill, you're like, whoa.
I don't know if you heard this or not, and I hope this isn't really a spoiler, but if the man's already said it aloud, I don't really feel like it's a spoiler at all. Matthew Lillard has said he's coming back for Five Nights at Freddy's. I was going to say Five Nights at Freddy's, but I don't know what Frive is. It's like a frush. The fuck is a frush? What else we got? Oh, The Running Man, dude. There's a remake of The Running Man happening with Edgar Wright at the helm, and as far as I'm hearing, Glenn Powell. He seems to be an up-and-coming heartthrob action star, He was in that Twisters movie. He was in the Top Guns. He was in the one with Sydney Sweeney, and he got to touch her boobs. Yeah, that guy.
Man, I should have been an actor. Speaking of Twisters, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we've been seeing clips of you can go watch Twisters at a 4D theater where the seats move and all kinds of craziness.
Fun.
We don't have a motion theater here in Ohio that I've seen anywhere. Tennessee has one.
Yeah.
So the next time a movie comes out where being in a motion theater is great, I'm going to call you and be like, hey, Steven, I'm coming to Tennessee. Let's go see a movie.
Let's do it, man. We've done it one time, and I will say it's pricey, but the experience is kind of what you're in it for. So it's like a ride. So we went and saw Sonic the Hedgehog in that, and you talk about all like the whoosh and the spray and the water and just wind. I don't know. It was a lot of fun, just being in it like that. So yeah,
see,
Twisters would be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, they were throwing those people around. It was nuts.
I bet.
Only thing that would suck about that is Samantha might be able to sit through it, but she gets motion sick real easy. So that could end badly.
Yeah, that could be. I think that's about all I got. I don't see anything else that's really jumping out at me as like, oh my God, we got to talk about that. I'm still hoping, nah, I don't want to talk about that. That just makes me mad. And I'm still keeping my eyes on that Teacup show. I haven't watched it yet or anything. I don't even know if it's out yet. I just know that I want to keep my eyes on it because it's looking promising, but I don't know yet.
I haven't yet, but I'm going to start watching that Real Nightmares on Elm Street.
Yeah, I want to watch that too. I've yet to pull the trigger on that.
I was telling Samantha about it the other day because she likes true crime shows, and I think she wants to watch it with me, so I have to wait when we can both watch it. But I've been reading more about it. It seems like it's really interesting. But as you were going to say something, go ahead.
I remembered something that I wanted to share because I thought it was like really awesome little trivia that I had no fucking clue about. Does the name Steve Blum ring a bell? He's a voice actor. If you don't if you don't know him by name, I guarantee you know his voice. He probably is best known for doing Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop, but he also is Wolverine. Most famously, I guess, in Marvel stuff, he's done a lot of Wolverine voiceover.
Okay.
He's just got that deep, kind of, he's down here, yeah.
Yeah.
Guarantee you've heard his fucking voice. He was on Tuned In with Jim Cummings, which is another great voice actor. If you've never seen or heard this podcast and you love voice actors, that's where you need to go and listen to fucking, that. It brings me so much joy. Hearing these people talk about voice acting. Billy West was on there just the other few weeks ago, and he's talking about doing Zoidberg, and he's talking about talking and doing, and who his inspirations are, and oh my goodness, I love it. But anyway, Steve Blum was on there, and he was talking about one of his first jobs, and it was he said, this little studio, I think it was called Empire. They were doing these movies like Ghoulies and Troll, and I was like, Empire? You mean like Charles Band Empire, like Full Moon? And he's like, and then eventually it was like, and then, eventually became Full Moon, and I was kind of with them for a while, and for a little bit, and then it was like, eventually I had to move on. I was like, holy shit, this guy worked for Full Moon.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know what he was doing. I can't remember what specifically he said he did, but just the fact that he was working with Full Moon and Empire days, man, that's fucking awesome.
It's funny, too, that you mentioned that podcast because I see clips of that podcast all the time where a voice actor will come on and say a famous line as one of their characters, and then Jim Cummings will do it as, like, Winnie the Pooh or something like that. I think my favorite one was they had the guy that played Solid Snake in the Metal Gear series, and Jim Cummings did his Tigger voice. And he, did the Tigger thing, the wonderful thing about Tiggers, and then you hear Solid Snake doing it, and I'm like, that's epic.
The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are a wonderful thing.
Kind of almost went to a Casey Kasem.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. That's somebody I would love to meet, though, is Jim Cummings. Just because he did the voice of most of my childhood.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love listening to that podcast is just the people that he talks to. And some I might not have a connection to. Others I definitely do. I mean, he's talked to I think every single one of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I grew up with. He's talked to just so many great voice actors that I've admired for so many years. I wish I've heard he's getting some bigger names like Frank Welker being the legend. If you don't, his voice. If you don't know his name, you have heard his voice. Fred from Scooby-Doo. That's where I'll start you. And then from
not to mention
the hundreds of others.
Well, the two that I think of when I think of Frank Welker are Fred, great good guy, and then he played one of the best bad guys of all time,
Yeah.
Megatron.
which is just badass in every regard. And I'm bad with names. Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen.
Autobots roll out.
Did you know he also did the voice, the sound effects of the Predator?
I did hear that. Yes, I can't remember what all it was, but some of the guttural.
Yeah, I watched him do a interview, and he'd just done all these voices. He's like, my throat's a little sore, so I don't know if I can do the monster voices and stuff. He's like, but let me try.
Mhm.
He did it, and it sounded perfect.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that came out of you, man. That's badass.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you ever want a touching story, listen to him talk about where he got the inspiration for Optimus Prime's voice. I don't know if you've ever heard that story.
something about it seems familiar, but I can't swear to it.
If you get the chance after we're done on the podcast today, just look it up. Just look up Peter Cullen Optimus Prime voice inspiration.
Okay.
It has to do with his brother, and you can tell that he gets emotional when he talks about it. But it's just a really touching story, and it's really cool. But I guess we need to talk about a movie.
We do. We have a movie we need to discuss. It was a movie that I don't know. We were kind of told that kind of go in blind, see what you think. That's what I did. So here we are talking about Oddity.
A Shudder is Shudder original, right?
I do believe so. Let me say first thing, with a lot of movies that you watch nowadays, there seems to be this running thing where you have about 5 or 6 production companies and their goddamn logo that has to pop up before the movie even thinks about starting. And when you see that, you expect music. You expect sounds. You know, especially when you see the Shudder one pop up. You expect, wee, boom, boom. Right? Well, this movie fucked my brain because there was no sound at the beginning. The Shudder logo comes up, no sound. I'm like, what? And then all these other logos pop up, no sound. And I'm like, where's the sound? But then I feel like I hear sound. I feel like I hear something. And then I look to Katrina and I'm just like, do you hear something? And she's like, I think I do. And it's like, are we going mad? So I turn it up loud and then finally hear the faint sound of music. And I'm like, holy shit. So I am hearing, why is it so low? I was waiting for it to fuck with my head hard after that. So, did it? Well, what did you think?
What did I think of this movie? I don't think I would seek out to watch if it wasn't for the podcast.
Okay.
After watching it, I think this movie had some really solid, this super solid story. I think a sister is trying to avenge. I'll just kind of break it down. A sister's trying to avenge her sister's death, and she's using, cursed items from an oddity shop that she owns.
Mm-hmm.
That alone is enough to go, man. But I don't think it was executed the best way that it could have been executed. It felt rushed to me. There was a lot of stuff that just made me ask more questions. Like, I wanted more information about certain characters and things like that. I will say what this movie does great, like you were saying with the sound.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know whether to turn it up, turn it down, what to do. I did get a few jump scares out of this movie. I don't know if you did, but I did. So I will give it kudos there. Like, I had a couple pretty good jump scares. And I don't know if it was just the way they did the sound. There was a part of the movie that I was watching. I think it was when the wooden man was up and moving.
Yeah.
There's a part where you hear like some creaking. And I don't know how they managed to do it, but it legitimately sounded like there was creaking behind me. And then when I come back to the TV, there's something there and I'm like, holy crap. So I will give it credit there. I thought the use of the camera and seeing the face, that was fantastic. So the movie has a lot going for it as far as the visuals and everything, I think. But I just feel like it came up short in the fact that, excuse me, we could have definitely had some more explanation for some things. And I understand leaving out some explanation. But one thing I questioned in the beginning when the husband is talking to the guy that he has working for him. And the guy's like talking about wanting him to go with him somewhere, like, can we go on a drive or yada, yada, yada. It almost seemed like there was some like romantic thing there almost to me. And I'm like, is there something going on between these two people? like, are they, like, how big of friends are these guys? Do they know much about each other? You find out a little bit later that he kind of helped that guy out of a bad spot. But I wanted a little more context about the characters, and I felt like I didn't get that. And so that kind of just killed some of it for me. The other thing, that wooden man was cool.
Oh, yeah.
A super cool part of the movie. Basically like a, they based it off of the old clay, I think they call them golems in Jewish folklore. We get to see this thing once, do its thing, and then we find out that it got burned up. And I get it, like, there's a sense of realism to that, I guess. Like, they gave me this big freaky wood thing. I'm gonna just burn the thing. Whatever, cool, whatever. I feel like we could have used that a little bit more. We could have seen a little bit more out of that. Again, I think this movie would have been better as a series. Make it a limited series. Really amp the story up. Push it further, and you could tell more of a story. You know, don't overdo it, obviously, but you could make more happen out of it. I love the idea of a cursed items being used.
Yeah.
You could have done an anthology series. This could have been part of an anthology series. They could have told this story, and they probably could have told it as a shorter story, and then told another story about somebody else that gets affected by another cursed item, or maybe the sister that's psychic. Spoiler alert, she dies, but maybe the sister that's psychic doesn't die in this one.
Yeah.
And she's interconnected with the other stories. But I'm not going to say that I didn't like this movie, but it's not something that I think, if it wasn't for the podcast and I had seen a little bit more or I had watched it, like, I don't know if I would watch it again.
Okay.
So.
I kind of would have to disagree. I found it to be quite interesting. I don't know. I just we talked about the slow burn horror movies. Some, you know, and it could be a delicate balance. I felt like this did kind of a slow burn in a way, but it wasn't boring. You know, like I could see where somebody might be like, "Oh, come on," but I didn't feel like it really lingered on anything too long or burned too slow. I felt like it was kind of moving at a pace that it needed to, and
I can agree with that. I didn't necessarily find it boring. I wanted a little more, if that makes sense. Yeah. I get a little greedy about story, so I just wanted a little bit more. But as you were saying, go ahead.
But I mean, even in saying that, we kind of figured out the run of the story well before it was revealed. I mean, I didn't feel like it was all that difficult to parse together. So I felt like what they had done here is taken a few tropes and kind of mixed it up in a blender and kind of reworked some things to, I don't know, I mean, try to play with some concepts and subvert a few here and there. Because one thing this movie did very well, just like you'd mentioned, are the jump scares. Like building that tension up and then just getting you right when you're least expecting it, you know? Like they really, really knew how to play with those expectations or subvert them in a way that you weren't sure. Like the camera one, for example. You had that one girl, was it Yana, I think is her name, the girlfriend?
Yeah.
She found some old camera that had some of Danny's. Danny was the wife. Danny's photo or camera or whatever. It was digital camera. Thumbing through all these old videos, and then you saw this one video of her and the husband doing something together. He just looked miserable, and then they replay it again, and you're like, were we just going to watch the same fucking clip over again? And then they cut back to it, as you've heard almost the entire clip play again, just to cut back to a ghost in the fucking camera. So it was just like you're hearing it, you're playing with it, you're in it, and you're just like, all right, so we're just doing this whole goddamn clip again, and then you're not thinking about what they're going to do to twist it on it.
And that whole scene, I think they played out really well because she drops the camera and then the camera flashes and you see the ghost. And I actually had to turn the captions on because I couldn't hear very well. And Danny was telling Yana to run because it wasn't one of those things where Danny wanted to hurt Yana, I don't think, or anything. She wanted her to get away from her husband, because he was responsible for her death.
Yeah.
The other thing that I appreciated about that whole scene is when Yana gets out of the room, they focus on the door, and you think, oh, we're going to get a jump scare here. Danny's going to, like, shoot out of the room or something. She doesn't. She just kind of, you see her face in the darkness.
Yeah.
And Yana's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Probably the smartest decision I've ever seen in a horror film.
Yeah, she bails and she calls the motherfucker up and she's like, I'm not coming back. I don't know why you want to be there. Hell with this. I'm done. I was like, smartest fucking person in a horror movie ever.
And she told him, like, don't call me anymore.
Leave me the fuck alone. I am done.
I even thought his reasoning for wanting Danny to be killed was a little ridiculous.
It's arrogant is what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
Like, after being with me, there's just no fucking way she could ever love another man because she's had me.
And I know he does mention something, but he does mention something about, you know, not wanting to lose the house and everything. But that's after he said all the things that make him the arrogant asshole that he is. I love the scene too where you find out that he's talking to his assistant, asking him to kill her, and the assistant like makes a comment about rape. Like, trigger warning, people.
Yeah, he's really, really into what's going on here. Like, this is a thrill for him. Like, he'd do this shit for free, I think.
And it kind of kills me when I was watching the scene. He's like, nothing like that's to happen. I don't want you to, he's like, I don't want her hurt. I want it to be quick and painless. He's like, oh, you don't want her hurt. You just want her dead. And I'm like, it's a good point.
Yep.
Good point, man. But I'm not going to say that I didn't. That was my problem. That was my whole problem with the film. I enjoyed the way that everything played out, but there were a few spots where I'm like, I would like a little more context. Like,
sure.
That was the biggest thing that kind of killed it for me. And a lot of it might be that I just need to actually sit down and rewatch it to maybe get some more context that I didn't get before.
Well, all right. So to work with that example, the puppet. Let's talk about the puppet. That's the big deal, or I guess mannequin, whatever. Like, we can kind of get some idea as to how she is doing what she's doing. I'm assuming it's some sort of possession with the hair, the blood, the pictures, something like what would you call that? Like a voodoo puppeteering, I guess?
Something along those lines.
Because, I mean, I don't know why you would have all that other stuff. It feels something voodoo-ish or black magic-y where you have to have all that stuff to then. Because as that one girl was pulling all that shit out, it felt like, all right, so when is it going to trigger Darcy? And once she got the last item out, it's like that's when it triggered. It's almost like an alarm bell went off in her head, like she lost a connection, and that's when she could realize it. Because furthermore, I don't know if you realized this either or not, I didn't notice she was blind at first. Like, I didn't get an indication she was blind until she came to the house. And I was like, she's blind. What? How did I miss that? I don't know how I missed it, but I did. So I don't know if you had that same problem or not, because it just kind of caught me off guard.
There are honestly a few scenes in the movie where, even the scene where Yana is pulling all of the stuff out of the wooden man, and she gets up and she yells for her to put it back. Mm-hmm. It almost to me seemed like she was staring right at her. Yeah. And I'm like, part of me was like, is she just acting like she's blind? Mm-hmm. What's going on here?
Yeah. But I mean, there was okay. So I thought for a moment, were you talking about trying to keep up with it, feeling like you were having a moment where of disconnect? I thought we were going to have that type of movie at first, but I was at least grateful that they helped it come together before I got too lost in it. And I think it was when we were first introduced to Darcy, because the start of the movie, the way it really kind of sets everything up, I feel like you get lost in it because the tension kind of gets you a little unfocused, I guess, because you have Danny's in this house. Some big, weird fucking, like, I guess it would be kind of a neat house to have, but at the same time, I don't know. I'd have to figure it out. I'd have to live there and see. But she's in this house. Some creepy guy shows up, and he's like, hey, saw some guy run in your house. You can tell he seems a bit unhinged, and there's this back and forth. He's trying to convince her to open the door so he can find whoever ran in her house. Why would you let somebody in? Obviously, that's what you're thinking, but then she starts to hear things, so then you're like, okay, maybe someone is in the house. I don't know. The way they do it, the way that whole scene kind of plays out, the tension's real. Like, you're just like, I don't know who to believe. Because, what do you do? Creep or creep? The creep I can see or the creep I can't? I don't know. What do I do? And then she goes to open the door, or at least we think she does, and then cut away, and then you're like, oh, she died. He's now locked away, and then he dies. But they do it in such a way that you're not 100% sure it was him until you see the eyes. So it's like, okay, so he got locked away. So it's like you have to piece this together up to a point, and then I was like, oh, okay. So then I paused the movie and I looked at Katrina and I was like, all right, so here's what happened. No, and I lay it all out, and she's like, gotcha, okay, and then play, and then now we're back on track. So I can appreciate not hand-holding, but at the same time, it did kind of get a little disjointed for a moment where you're like, I'm trying to keep up, man, just hang on, just bear with me. But I mean, there's not a lot to it. It's a very simple kind of ghost story type movie, and like I said, the twist, or I don't even know if it was really a twist. I don't really find it to be a twist because it's common knowledge. I mean, I don't feel like it was that hard to figure out that he was fucking responsible. I mean, if that was part of it, I mean, that might be why it feels like such a letdown, is because you can pretty much piece it together from the start, because he's already moved on from his wife almost immediately. The sister's already questioning it, like the moment he brings her up. So, I mean, that's when we figured it out. It was like, oh yeah, so he probably had something to do with it. It was just, how did he do it, and how did he get away with it?
After even seeing him on camera, not even for that long, he just seemed like a jerk. Yeah. And I was reading, the director actually, or the writer, or people involved with the film wanted him to be such an unlikable character that everybody was rooting for him to die. Well, and I can see that.
Yeah, he was. No, I didn't care for him at all. Yeah, he just had a very unlikable quality.
Yeah, and I guess it wasn't even him that I wanted a little more context for.
Mm-hmm. Like, why was he such a prick?
Yeah, like, I don't need to know that. Like, he's just a prick, I wanted to know just a little bit more about his relationship with the guy that he had kill his wife. Just a smidge more, not even a lot. Just like a nod or something. And then I wanted to know a little bit more about Darcy and about how she obtained the Oddity shop. Maybe just a little tidbit or something. Maybe even just a conversation. That's all I would have wanted.
Okay.
To sort of satiate that desire that I had to know a little bit more.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, because it does leave a little bit of ambiguity, which kind of makes you question a few things, because she did kind of come off almost like like the Warrens, from the Conjuring movies. Like, she had this little shop of curiosities. Hell, she could have had the shop from Friday the 13th, the series, with her little Oddity shop. Oddity shop, get it? Okay, so trying to think of something else about this film that I want to talk about. Oh, well, yeah, let's talk about the creeper guy, because, I mean, at the end of the movie, I mean, he got... I don't know which would have been worse for him, honestly, if Darcy had gotten to him, or what fucking Ted did to him, because I feel like what Ted did to him was fucking more torturous and brutal, to be honest.
And he was biting his toe off when we last see him, and then he mutilated him.
I'm sure he did more than that, yeah. So he was just tied up and allowing some weird fucking cannibal to just eat him. I mean, goddamn, I'd have rather have my head crushed.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. Like, the head crush would have been a favor.
Yeah, quick and painless.
I did like the little nod, but it also raised questions for me. It's like, was Darcy always blind, or could she see at one point in time?
I kind of wondered that too.
I don't remember them referring to it, and if you remember, when right before Darcy dies, she looks up through the hole that she fell in, and she's like seeing her sister.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like a ghost form, it's just her regular sister. It's daylight and what she's seeing, and her sister opens the thing, opens it, and she's smiling at her, and then she closes it. So it's like, were you not always blind?
Yeah.
Did something happen? It's like, maybe you got your psychic abilities because of something at the Oddity shop, and you lost your vision. Like, there's so much room there. And I think that was the big thing, too. Like, I wanted to see more of these items used. I will say I do appreciate that the item that we see at the end of the movie, the bell, it is referenced in the beginning of the movie. She talks about how everybody who's rang that bell has died, and then sure enough, Dr. Douchebag rings the bell. And
I had a very funny thing to mention with that, because I played out an entire conversation in real time as we were watching it, because you know the conversation he was having with himself looking at that bell. He pulls it out and he was like, I see what you want me to do. You want me to ring the bell because, you know, he told me some freaky story. I'm not going to ring the bell. I don't have to ring the bell. I'm not going to ring this bell. Well, who am I proving this to? I'm not going to ring this bell. I'm not going to ring the bell. I'm not going to do it. You know what? I'll ring it once just to prove that it's fine. I'll just once, and then we'll never have to do it again. I just press it once. But then if I press it, man, then I'm just proving. I don't have to prove shit. You know what? Fuck it. This is stupid. This is crazy. This is stupid, crazy. I hit it. Did it. Fine. There, see? I did it. Nothing. 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 Fine. That was the conversation he had all through his head.
I could hear it. And now I'm going to think about that because I'm probably going to go back just to rewatch. I made the mistake of I went in blind. I did, but you see some of the reviews. I watched the trailer for it, and I saw some of the reviews on Shudder, and everybody was hyping it up. So I don't know if I was just expecting something crazier.
Yeah, I mean, you know? I could see that. Yeah,
but like I said, if they wanted to do that'd be a great idea. If they wanted to do a different movie, but have it about the same have the same oddity shop involved. Somebody else is taking over the oddity shop or something. That could be cool.
Now, I did hear, and I don't know the connection or what it is a connection to. I'm sure I could look it up because I do have the internet here in front of me, but I'm not going to do that. One of the trinkets, and I think it was that little, was it a monkey with the little symbols or whatever?
I think so, yeah.
Whatever, like right there at the ass end before we cut away from the shop, we saw something go chink like that, and it was a cut. Apparently, that was something that was seen in the director's previous movie, like a little trinket that he rolled over into this one. So I don't know if that's supposed to just be like a little Easter egg, kind of like the car in Evil Dead, or if there's going to be a through line. I don't know. But I did read that. I don't know the other movie, but just a fun little fact for you. Trivias, if you will. But
now, I guess when they did the ending of this movie, they were going to have a jump scare. And they were going to have him turn, not see anything, and then turn back around, and that bellboy was going to be right there. And then it was going to cut out.
Yeah.
But I guess the guy that played the bellboy, the contacts he had in, made it hard for him to see. And when he was standing there, they were like, you know, this looks like a good angle. Maybe we should just do this. And so they rewrote it.
Okay.
I guess the director had gotten a message on social media from someone. They were like, please tell me that asshole got what he deserved.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, he definitely got what he deserved. But I would have loved to have seen how he got what he deserved.
Sure.
Just saying.
That would have been, it would have been satisfying because the prick deserved something. That's for goddamn sure.
And I would have loved to have seen more of the wooden man. Like, I thought that was phenomenal. You know, if they did even if they did some shorts, like even just 5-minute little videos of showing that thing in the past being used, I'd be okay with that too, just because it was a really interesting aesthetic. I loved the look of it. I loved how it had this heaviness to it, this stiffness to it as it's walking and moving. I'm like, I need more of this.
Yeah. I personally, like I said, I wouldn't say that it was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest fucking thing ever. You got to go see it right now. But I think it's a fun little ghost house story, you know, little, like I said, a little predictable, a little tropey because we've seen some of these things, but it's not a bad film by any means. Just, you know, bring your expectations down just a hair, you know, don't get swept up into the hype because I don't really feel like it didn't need to be that hyped. You know, it's fine for what it is.
I feel like it kind of falls into the same conversation that we had about Hellfest. It doesn't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Like I said, like I said, it wasn't that I didn't like the movie. I enjoyed what I watched. It had some great jump scares. I will give it credit there all day. But when I was done watching it, I just looked at myself and was like, is that it? Is there more? I would love a little more context about certain things. And so that kind of left me in a weird place after watching it. But I loved the ending too. It's one of those things where I'm like, this guy's going to get what he fucking deserves.
Hmm.
Because that was what pissed me off the most, was that for a second you're like, is this guy really going to get away with this? And then I saw the bell, and now I'm going to forever think of that scene differently because of that bit that you just did.
You're welcome.
But yeah, you know, seeing him hit that bell, you're just like, son of a bitch, yes. So
I mean, they said he's gonna die, so we knew he was gonna die. I mean, that would, if he didn't, that would have just been like a big middle finger.
yeah.
You know, he had to die.
And, you know, this is one of those movies that there's really not a happy ending for really anybody involved with it, except for Yana.
Except for Yana, yeah. She was the smart one. She's like, fuck all the way off.
Like, this relationship ain't worth the ghost.
Yeah.
Smart girl. You know, we should do a list one day of people who have, and I know we've done stuff in the past about people who have made, like, we've talked about people who have made good decisions in horror movies and people who have made bad decisions. We should revisit that conversation and put her on the list there, because Yana was definitely smart.
Yeah. I mean, she came off a little annoying at first, but she came through to be a little smarter than most.
And, you know, after watching this, I got some suggestions for, like, some other Shudder exclusives and Shudder originals. There's definitely some interesting looking movies coming out of Shudder. There was one that was called, like, the Demon Syndrome or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely looks interesting. It's about some brothers. Their dad gets possessed, and then they kind of put me in the mindset of, how do I put it? The Thing mixed with Evil Dead.
Okay.
Like, the people get possessed, but they have these, like, things living within them. It's a very, very strange concept. I'm gonna see if I can find the title. I'm gonna look it up just real quick here, see if I can find it while I'm sitting here. Shudder is bringing, it's like, I'm looking on Shudder right now to everybody that's, you know, listening out there. They've got some great collections on here. Ooh, we should talk about Tourist Trap.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
That would be a fun one. No, it's right here. Of course, I brought it up, and now I'm not gonna probably. Oh, All Hallows Eve is on Shudder.
Okay.
For anybody who wants to watch, which is cool because that was a YouTube movie. So that is a good thing. I'm going to find this, I promise. Do you have any other notes about the movie? Did you look up the director or anything?
No, but I remember that there was something about him that I was trying to remember. Let me see if I can pull him up real quick, because I know he had done a few other things, and I don't know whether or not they were worth checking out or not. But I wanted to bring his filmography up just to touch on ever so briefly. Let's see. His name is Damien McCarthy. That seems to be a popular name here lately.
Right?
Damien. Caveat. That was the movie that the other Trinket was in.
Okay.
It was the other movie he did. And then he did a short film. I meant to point that up. He did a short film back in 2013 called How Olin Lost His Eye, which is about the guy who had the eye in this movie. So that's a fun thing.
It's cool that all of that interconnects.
Mm-hmm. But he's done a few shorts, so this is really only his second big film, because everything else is a short film. So, okay.
So I definitely can't give him hate for that either, since this is, you know, like I said, I enjoyed the movie for what it was, would have liked a little more context. Maybe give it a rewatch and not worry about reviews. That's the mistake I make. Sometimes I see reviews when I'm not meaning to.
No, I get that. I mean, sometimes it can kind of shape your narrative, and you don't mean for it to. It just happens.
Real quick, while we're talking about movies and everything, the movie that I'm thinking of is called The Demon Disorder.
Okay.
And the director might be somebody who you are familiar with. I will give you the name. His name is Steve Boyle. Does that name ring a bell?
No, don't think so.
All you need to know is he's a special effects guy.
Okay.
I will tell you that. You can look him up if you'd like. But I'm going to read this to you just real quick. In this demonic family drama, Graham is haunted by his past since the death of his father and the estrangement from his two brothers. Jake, the middle brother, contacts Graham, claiming that something is horribly wrong. Their youngest brother, Philip, is possessed by their deceased father. Graham reluctantly agrees to go and see for himself. With these brothers back together, they soon realize they are unprepared for the forces against them, and learn that the sins of their past will not stay hidden. But how do you defeat a presence that knows you inside and out, and anger so powerful it refuses to stay dead? They were eating chickens and annihilating people
Hmm.
in the trailer for this film. And there is some body horror in this film, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a movie that we should possibly partake in,
Okay. Okay.
just to see what we think of it. I would love to do a for part of October, do like Shudder movies and do Tubi movies, exclusives too, good or bad. And we'll probably hate ourselves by the end of it all, but give some honest reviews.
100% we'll hate ourselves. But hey,
But
it's for content. Why not, right?
right? But yeah, I would tell people to go check out
It's not a bad
Oddity.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie by any means.
Don't go in expecting, a huge story. If there's things that you want to know about the characters, who knows? Maybe you can look them up somewhere. Maybe they've written some stuff about the characters a little bit. Some theaters, some studios do that. So
And it might just be enough of a story that it's just everything that you needed. Simple enough. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So, Ramblers, let us know how you feel about Oddity on social media at Horror Ramblings, or send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you've got other things you want to talk about, join our Facebook group or join us on Discord. Find us on Instagram. Head on over to patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions and throw us some money. Leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app. See if we've posted up any questions and polls on Spotify. And keep up with all things over at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes down below.
and remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.